Good day everyone, I'm Shella Nahal together with my groupmates Juliana Diaz, Jasmine Monzon, Gail Sabater, Kenneth Salvador, and Joshua Oyangunin. And we are Group 5. Our topic for today is about principle, policies, and dimensions of inclusive education. Inclusive education provides equal learning opportunities for all learners, especially with those diverse needs. And in this report, we will be discuss about the principle, policies, and dimensions of inclusive education, including early intervention, the Philippine model of inclusion, transition programs, sustaining programs, and lastly, the national IP education policy. This concept we will be discussed further later on. But first, let us let us listen to the classroom rules and objectives which will be presented by my groupmates.
Before we officially start our report, let us set the tone for our classroom rules. Let's use the acronym LEARN. L for listen actively. Listen to the teacher and classmates. Shows respect by paying attention when someone is speaking. Letter E. Engage positively. Participate in activities, ask questions, and contributes ideas with a positive attitude. Letter A. Act responsibly. Be responsible for your behavior, materials, and learning tasks at all times. And letter R, respect everyone. Respect classmates, teachers, and the classroom environment. No bullying, teasing, or discriminations. And for the last, letter N, never give up. Try your best, learn from mistakes, and keep improving every day.
Good day everyone, my name is Gail Sabater and we will be going over the learning objectives. We have here the first and the second learning objective, and my groupmate Ms. Jasmine Monzon will be discussing the third and fourth learning objective. So let's begin. The first learning objective we have here is explain the function of early help to learners with different needs. In the second one, we have understand the process of how the Philippine model of inclusion is applied in learning.
So, for our third objective is apply inclusive education principles by creating transition programs that support learners' academic, social, and functional needs. So, lastly, the fourth objective is analyze and evaluate strategies for sustaining inclusive education programs in school and communities. So, at the end of the lessons, we hope that you learn something and focus on our objectives. So, enjoy the remaining of our lesson. Thank you.
Good day everyone. Again, I'm Shell Anahal and I will discuss about early intervention. So what is early intervention? So let's first read the first bullet. Early intervention, services for children birth to 2 years with delays or disabilities, support child growth and development, supports families, includes therapy, speech, physical, and etc., helps children learn skills and succeed in life. So, ang early intervention daw po, ito po yung serbisyo at suporta na ibinibigay sa bata na may developmental delays or disabilities mula kapanganakan nila hanggang sa maging 2 years old sila. And ang layunin nito ay matulungan ang bata sa kanilang growth at development and pati na rin ang kanilang pamilya sa pagsuporta ng kanilang needs. And kasama sa early intervention ng iba't ibang therapy, patulad na lamang ng speech therapy, physical therapy at iba pa, na depende sa pangangailangan ng bata. Sa madaling salita, ang tinutulungan nito ang bata na matuto ng skills at ma-develop ang kanilang kakayahan sa early years. So, let's move on to the importance of early intervention. First, let's read the first bullet. Identifies developmental needs early, addresses physical, cognitive, communication, social, or emotional, sensory, and adaptive needs. So, mahalaga ang early intervention kasi natutukoy agad ang developmental needs o delays ng bata habang maaga pa. Kapag na-address agad, mas natutulungan silang mag-develop ng skills at tulad ng physical, paggalaw nila, pag-iisip, cognitive, communication, at ilan pa sa mga ito. Dahil dito, mas nagiging prepared sila sa school at mas kaya nilang harapin ang challenges ng buhay. Now, let's talk about the goals of early intervention. So, this the goals of early intervention. Basahin muna natin ang unang bullet. It enhances development of infants and toddlers, reduce need for special education, promote independent living, support families in meeting children's needs. So, ang goal ng early intervention ay ma-enhance ang development ng infants and toddlers na may delays or disabilities. Layunin din ito na mabawasan ang need for special education in the future, and tinutulungan din ito ang bata na maging more dependent habang lumalaki, at syempre sinusuportahan din ito ang families para mas matugunan nila ang needs ng kanilang anak. So, pumunta naman tayo sa areas of development. Ano nga ba ito? So, sa areas of development, we have here the physical skills, cognitive skills, communication skills, self-help skills, and social and emotional skills. Una, sa physical skills, ito yung body movements tulad ng reaching, crawling, walking, drawing, at building na ini-improve yung kakayahan sa paggalaw ng bata. The next is yung cognitive skills. Ito naman yung tungkol sa thinking, learning, at solving problems. Then the next one, yung communication skills. Ito naman yung tumutukoy sa talking, listening, at understanding. At yung self-help skills or adaptive skills, ito naman yung nagpapalakas ng independence sa daily activities tulad ng eating, dressing, at toileting. And lastly, yung social and emotional skills, ito yung tumutukoy sa playing at interacting with others. At sa kabuuan nito, tinutulungan ang bata na ma-develop ang iba't ibang skills para mas maging independent at capable sila sa daily life. Now, let's talk about the screening, evaluation, and assessment sa early intervention. First, let's open this. Screening, evaluation, and assessment. Let's read the first bullet. identify developmental delays, determine strengths and needs, and lastly, guide intervention planning. Ang screening, evaluation, and assessment ay mga proseso na ginagamit para ma-identify ang possible na developmental delays ng bata. At tinutulungan din ito na malaman ang strengths and needs ng bata. At base dito, nagiging guide din siya sa pagplano ng appropriate early intervention services para sa kanila. Next, the services available sa early intervention.
Ingay.
So, the services available ay mga tulong o intervention na ibinibigay sa mga batang may developmental needs para masuportahan ang kanilang development. And kasama dito ang speech and language therapy, physical and occupational therapy, psychological services, home visits, medical nursing nutrition services, hearing and vision services, social work services, and assistive technology. Ibig sabihin, ang mga services na ito ay nagbibigay ng suporta para sa overall development ng bata. Next is IFSP, Individual Family Service Plan. So, ang IFSP or Individual Family Service Plan ay isang plano para sa bata at sa kanilang pamilya para maibigay ang tamang suporta. Dito, nakalagay ang goals at services na kailangan ng bata at lastly, ginagamit din itong guide sa intervention para sa mas maayos at angkop na needs ng bata at ng pamilya. Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin kung sino ang qualified sa early intervention. So, who qualifies for early intervention? Let's read the bullets. Developmental delay, health conditions like genetic disorder, birth defects, hearing loss, and premature birth. So, ang mga batang qualified para sa early intervention ay yung mga developmental delay. Kasama rin dito yung health condition na posibleng mag-cause ng delay tulad ng, yun nga, genetic disorders, birth defects, hearing loss, and premature birth. Sa ganitong paraan, matutukoy natin kung sino ang nangangailangan ng early intervention. Next is, let's talk about the government agency that's supporting early intervention in Philippines. So, ito po yung mga government agencies na nagsusuporta ng early intervention sa Pilipinas. Una yung ACCD Council or Early Childhood Care and Development Council na para sa ages 0 to 4 years old na nag-coordinate ng early childhood programs para sa learning, health, at nutrition at nag-set ng standards para sa Child Development Centers. Ang sunod naman ay yung DepEd or Department of Education na para sa ages 5 years old and above, kung saan nagbibigay ng kindergarten education at sumusuporta sa special education at inclusive education para sa learners with developmental delays or disabilities. And the next one is DOH or Department of Health. Ito naman po yung responsable sa early screening, detection at monitoring ng developmental delays, pati na rin sa health services tulad ng immunization at nutrition programs. And the next one is DSWD or Department of Social Welfare and Development, na nagbibigay ng social welfare services at suporta or support programs para sa mga bata at pamilya na may special needs. Halimbawa na nga lang dito yung PORFIS at Child Welfare Services. And lastly, the LGU or Local Government Units na ang frontline implementers na nagpapatakbo ng child development centers at community-based early childhood programs. So, paano nga ba nakakatulong ang gobyerno? So, how government helps? Ilan dito ay una ay ang early screening detection, kung saan may early screening at identification ng developmental delays sa mga bata. Education, which is yung kindergarten o CDC or Child Development Centers. Next is yung SPED and inclusive education, community-based programs, family support, counseling, and guidance. And lastly, interagency coordination, kung saan may coordination sa iba't ibang government agency para matuloy-tuloy, para mas tuloy-tuloy at maayos ang support para sa mga bata. At ito ay ilan sa mga tulong o pagtugon ng gobyerno para sa early intervention. Now, pag-usapan naman natin ang normalization at ang mga nakapaloob dito. So, ito ang normalization. Unahin natin basahin natin yung mga bullets. Equal opportunities for PWDs or persons with disabilities, promote independence and inclusion, and last is training and participation support. So, ang normalization ay isang principle na sumusuporta sa early intervention na nagsasabing dapat mabigyan ang mga person with disabilities ng equal opportunities, training, and support para sa kanilang independence and full participation sa society. And yung origin naman ng normalization, ito ay nagsimula sa Scandinavia and become popularized or widely known in 1960s sa Amerika. Also, it's supported by laws and agreements. Kabilang sa mga ito ay ang RA 7277, which is or Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities sa Philippines, IDEA 2007 or Individual Disabilities Education Act, and lastly, Salamanca Statement and Framework of Action noong 1994 sa Spain. In conclusion, ang early intervention ay mahalaga sa maagang pag-support sa development ng bata at sa pagbibigay ng tulong para sa kanilang growth at future success. And that would be all for my report about early intervention. Thank you.
Good day everyone, especially to you, Sir Paul. I'm Kenneth Salvador and I will be discuss the process of inclusion Philippine model. So first, what is inclusion? Inclusion is seen as a process of addressing and responding to the diverse needs of all learners by increasing participation in learning, cultures and communities, and reducing exclusion within and from education. So, inclusion, it means ito po yung pagbibigay ng oportunidad sa bawat mamamayan, anuman ang kanilang kalagayan, ay dapat ito ay tama, sapat, at kapaki-pakinabang sa lahat ng mamamayan. So, regardless kung ano ang kanilang situation, for the inclusion, ang sinasabi po rito ay dapat lahat mabigyan. Pantay-pantay, mahirap man o mayaman. Next, the child with special need or vision. So first, self-instruction. Self-instruction or self-talk, ito po yung pakikipag-usap sa sarili kung paano ba natin minomotivate ang ating sarili na gawin ang ating mga gustong gawin despite from our special needs or our disabilities. Next, self-monitoring. So ito po ang pagbabantay or pagmonitor sa ating sarili na kung saan na binabantayan natin ang ating sarili na nakakasunod ba tayo sa isang gawain. And self-reinforcement. So ito po ang pagbibigay ng positive feedback or reward sa ating sarili dahil po kahit papaano ay nakakasunod po tayo sa isang gawain o sa ating layunin. So, next, self-determination. Self-determination, it means that a self na kayang gumawa ng isang bagay o desisyon na kaya niyang panindigan. Kung kaya niya na bang pumili sa kung para sa kanyang sarili or kontrolin ang kanyang sarili ng may paninindigan. Next, inclusive education. So what is inclusive education? Inclusive education is putting the right to education into action by including all learners, respecting their diverse needs, abilities, and characteristics, and eliminating all forms of discrimination in the learning environment, UNESCO 2009. So, as I said earlier, sa inclusion, ito po ang pagbibigay ng opportunities, equal opportunities sa bawat tao. Dito naman po sa inclusive education, true inclusive education po ay dapat mas binibigyan po natin ng pansin ng edukasyon, lalo na sa mga may special needs and learners with these abilities. So, inclusive education, dapat lahat po ay nabibigyan regardless to their situation. And dapat sa inclusive education, mas ma-eliminate or ma-reduce po natin ang discrimination sa ating mga students, lalong-lalo na sa mga may special needs and learners with these abilities. So next, the government institutions or legal bases. So these are the government institutions and legal bases that support inclusive education. First, international mandates like IDEA, presidential decrees, executive orders, republic acts, and DepEd orders. So, it is important to us because tayo ang nagiging daan ng pagbibigay ng projects sa government upang mas madali nila itong maipasa at mabigyan ng pansin nang sa ganun ay mas mabilis nila ito na maibigay or ma-disseminate sa ating mga mamamayan, lalong-lalo na sa edukasyon at sa ating mga mag-aaral. So, mahalaga ang ating tungkulin bilang mamamayan dahil tayo ang boses ng lipunan na kung saan binibigyang diin natin ang halaga ng ating buhay, karapatan na maging isang tao na may paninindigan sa ating buhay. That's all. Thank you.
And today, I will discuss the Philippine Inclusive Education. So, it is a process where all types of learners with diverse needs are given equal opportunities for meaningful life in non-discrimination, culturally, spiritually sensitive, learner-centered curriculum, learning process, delivery modes, and settings. So, ang main point lang dito is the system adjusts to the students, not the other way around. And ang goal ng inclusive education sa Philippines ay hindi lamang academic learning, kundi ang social integration na makatulong sa pamumuhay at makapag-ugnay ng lahat ng bata nang walang diskriminasyon. So sabi nga sa DepEd, no, education is for all. And that means exactly that. Kasali ang lahat, walang maiiwan. So let's move on to inclusion of students with disability in the Philippines. So, with this inclusive education in the Philippines, dito, titingnan natin sa diagram, meron tayong dalawang diagram na nakalagay Gen Ed and ALS. So, in these two main pillars, sa ating image, may dalawang main boxes tayo. Okay? And, una, yung general education, and pangalawa is yung alternative learning system. So, ano ba yung general education? General education, ito yung standard na formal schooling na alam natin. And yung ALS is yung alternative learning system. Ito naman yung parallel learning system para sa mga learners who cannot access formal education due to various circumstances. And kung mapapansin nyo, parehas lang naman yung mga nakalagay dun sa bilog. So this is madrasa education, special education, programs for gifted and talented indigenous peoples education. So ano nga ba yung SPED? Ito yung primary program for learners with disability. And dito natin binibigyan ng individualized support ang mga bata based sa kanilang specific na needs. And ano naman yung sa madrasa. So madrasa education, ito naman yung ating mga kapatid na Muslim learners integrating Arabic language and academic values. And para naman sa IEP or Indigenous People Education, ito naman yung mga kababayan natin na sisiguro nito ang curriculum ay culturally sensitive para sa ating mga katutubo naman. Okay? And lastly, itong programs for the gifted and talented, sisiguro naman dito na yes, part din sila ng inclusions, no? Sila yung mga learners na nangangailangan ng advanced or accelerated curriculum. So, ano naman yung bridge na nakalagay dito? Itong arrow na PEPT na nakalagay and ANE test. So, what are those? Okay? So, sa PEPT natin naman, this is Philippine Educational Placement Test. And ang PEPT po ay ginagamit para i-assess and i-guide, i-grade ang level ng bawat learners. Halimbawa, kung ang isang student ay may disability, nahinto siya sa pag-aaral, pero gusto niya bumalik sa general education. So, ang PEPT po ang magsasabi kung anong grade siya dapat ilagay based doon sa kanyang competency. So, ano naman yung ANE test? ANE test naman, accreditation and equivalency test. Ito naman po yung para naman ito sa mga all students, no? Kapag pumasa ka rito, bibigyan ka nila ng high school or pumasa ka naman dito, makakakuha ka ng certificate na equivalent sa elementary to high school diploma and allowing you to move into higher education. So, makakabalik ito sa mainstream or sa general education. So, ano bang makukuha natin dito sa parallel na to, sa diagram na to? First, inclusion is not just a place. It is a service. Hindi po porket ang nasa sped room ka, ayun na yung inclusive or inclusive na tayo. Ang goal po ng intersection ng lahat, ang goal po nito is ma-intersect po lahat ng aspeto ng mga estudyante at makapagbigay po tayo ng serbisyo. And pangalawa naman po is napaka-flexible ng ating system. Through PEPT and ANE test, binibigyan natin ng choice ang mga learners with disabilities kung saan sila mas komportable matuto. So, sa formal classroom ba or sa community-based or ALS modules. In short, ang vision ng Philippine Inclusion of Student is hindi yung bata ang mag-adjust sa school, kundi yung system na mismo natin ang mag-a-adjust para ma-cater ang diversity ng bawat Pilipino. Yun lamang po. So let's move on to the process of inclusion. So let's continue with our topic, the process of inclusion. So in this topic naman po, ibabahagi ko naman po sa inyo tungkol naman po ito sa responsibilidad ng edukasyon sa Pilipinas or sistema ng Pilipinas pagdating naman po sa inclusion. Kung paano nga pala natin malalaman o masisiguro na isang estudyante ay walang maiiwan. Okay? So una po, education has the full responsibility to ensure the right to education. Which means, unang-una, education has the full responsibility po to ensure the right to education. Ibig sabihin, example, halimbawa natin, kung may isang batang may autism na gustong-gustong mag-aral, hindi dapat siya tanggihan. Instead, bigyan po siya ng karapatan na makapag-aral. Okay? And sa pangalawa naman po, sa una po natin is, dapat po yung autism student na yun is, mabigyan po siya ng, instead po na tanggihan siya, is, dapat siyang bigyan ng tamang suporta, gaya ng modified activities at gabay mula sa mga SPED teachers po natin para makasabay siya sa kanyang mga classmates. Pangalawa naman po, the use of flexible teaching methods. Okay? Innovative approach, assistive device, and learning resources. Sa pangalawa naman po, kailangan natin gumamit ng flexible teaching methods at innovative approach. Hindi nauubra sa atin yung one size fits all na tinuturo sa panahon ngayon, no? And example na lang po niyan is dapat gumagamit si teacher ng visual aids, katulad po ng ganito, at manipulatives kung may students naman na hirap magbasa, at maaari nilang bigyan sila ng audio recordings para naman sa mga student na may hearing impairment, no, sa mga kababayan natin, mga estudyante, mga learners na merong hirap sa pandinig, dapat silang bigyan ng approach na dapat appropriate sa kanilang mga pangangailangan, no. And sa pangatlo naman po, sa create a responsive and child-friendly environment. And this naman po, sa pangatlo naman po, example na lang po natin dito is dapat siguraduhin natin na may malawak po tayong daanan, okay, or clear pathway po para sa mga naka-wheelchair. And maganda rin kung meron po tayong reading corner para sa mga nangangailangan ng katahimikan habang nag-aaral naman. Higit sa lahat, sa mga dapat meron tayong mahigpit na rules laban sa mga bullying, para lahat ng mga bata ay pakiramdam nila tanggap sila at ligtas din sila sa ating mga paaralan. Sa pangapat naman po, promote a professional environment that actively supports inclusion for all learners. Sa pang-apat naman po, sa panghuli, kailangan i-promote ang professional environment na sumusuporta sa inclusion. Hindi lang ito trabaho ng isang tao, kundi ng buong school community. Example na lang po, ang ating mga teachers ay dapat patuloy na umattend po ng mga seminars at training na nakipag-coordinate din sila sa mga magulang and even sa guidance counselors at sa mga SPED teachers po para mas lumago ang tamang strategy or mas maturo ang tamang strategy na babagay sa pangailangan ng bawat estudyante. Yun lamang po.
Ayan, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Mr. Uyangoren and Mr. Salvador. Now let's begin with transition program. Once again, I'm Riendale Sabater and I will be happy to inform you or present you what transition program is. So let's begin. What is transition program? It is an organized set of activities designed with planned tasks that sets the students' mind to a clear goal. So in short, ito yung programa na bibigay ng mga activities, mga tasks sa mga learners with disabilities para ma-ready sila or ma-motivate sila na makuha ang isang goal. Another information or in relation to that, it is one of the most important program that DepEd proposed because it caters learners with disabilities. So again, class, ang main target or main idea ng transition program is learners with disabilities, either intellectually disabled sila or physically handicapped or both. As long as they are able to learn or as long as they are capable of learning either informal schools or informal schools, sila pa rin ang target ng ating transition program. So before we hop on to the next topic, are we still following? Are we still understanding what transition program is? Well, I hope you guys are. But earlier, or the idea of transition program is just the main idea. There are still philosophies, legal frameworks, policies, and curriculums in transition program. So, what are we waiting for? Let's discuss it. So, for the first is the philosophies of transition program. So, there are four philosophies of transition program. It is person-centered and strength-based, inclusivity and equity, outcome-oriented, functional independence. So again, for our first bullet, we have person-centered and strength-based. So itong first philosophy natin ay nag-empower or nagko-combine ng mga skills and abilities na meron yung mga learners. So, second is inclusivity and equity. So, ito namang philosophy na to ay nag-believe na lahat ng mga learners with disabilities ay may right na ma-include sa education. For our third bullet, we have outcome-oriented. So, this third philosophy ensures that all activities, all tasks that learners with disabilities are doing or assigned to are based in real life situations. So after they graduate, what will be the outcome? So that's the focus of our third philosophy. So our fourth philosophy is functional independence. So this philosophy strengthens their sense of independence. So meaning they can function well without the assistance of others. Okay, so that concludes all of the philosophies of transition program. Are we still following? I hope you guys are because I cannot see your response. Well, anyway, let's move on. Legal frameworks. Let's move on to legal frameworks. So again, this has already been, all of the contents under legal frameworks has already been discussed by the last group, which is titled Legal Basis. So I trust that you guys already know the contents of these. So we'll just recall them. The first bullet is Individuals with Disabilities Act or IDEA. This is a law in the US that ensures all children with disabilities are granted free, accessible public education. So the second, we have 1987 Philippine Constitution, particularly Article 14. This ensures that all citizens of the Philippines have the right to education, even learners with disabilities. The third bullet we have Republic Act 7277 or the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons. So this ensures that all learners with disabilities have the right to participate in our society in terms of employment, health, or public health, access, and education, of course. The fourth rather, we have Republic Act 11650. So we already know about this because Sir Paul has already gone through this a bunch of times already, but let me recall. Republic Act 11650 is a law here in the Philippines, also known as Inclusive Education Act. This law ensures that all learners with disabilities are accommodated and included in mainstream schools or physical schools. So last one, we have Presidential Decree 603. So this legal framework focuses on the welfare and the rights of the children. They protect the rights and the welfare of the children. So that concludes legal frameworks of transition program. Now that we're done with the philosophies and legal frameworks of transition program, let us move on to the policies of transition program. Here we have 3 bullets. First one is DepEd Order number 021 Series 2020. The second one is Individualized Education Plans or IEPs. Third one is Coordinated Activities. So let us begin with the first one first, okay? DepEd Order number 021 Series 2020 gives the rights for or applies K-12 to all learners with disabilities. The second one is Individualized Education Plans or IEPs. These are specially made educational materials tailored to the special needs or specific needs of learners with disabilities. Are we clear with that? I know that we already know about this and it's been mentioned a lot of times in this subject before, so I will not go deeper on this. So the third one is coordinated activities. So these activities are usually outcome oriented. So that means it focuses on the outcome or the results of activities. So that's the purpose of coordinated activities. Now let's move on to the curriculum components of transition program. Wait, before we start, are we still following? Is this clear? I know it's very simple, so I know that you guys are still following, hopefully. So let's move on again. Curriculum components of transition program. Here we have 4 bullets. The first one is daily living skills. Second is personal and social skills. Third one is academic functional skills. Third one is livelihood and enrichment, no skills. This was actually meant to be here. I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's just cover that with my hand. So let's begin with the first bullet. Daily living skills. So these skills focuses on daily life, which include hygiene, cooking, transportation, or financial management. So ayun yung focus ng ating daily living skills. So the second one is personal and social skills. Just pretend we have skills here. Personal and social skills. Ito ay nagpo-focus sa communication or emotional regulation ng mga learners with disabilities. So itong mga skills na to, pinofocus kung paano nila i-handle yung emotions nila and paano sila makipag-kausap or communicate with other people. The third one is academic functional skills. So ito yung mga sa skills na to, napapaloob yung mga subjects na English, Math, and Science. So, yung mga subjects na yun ay magagamit nila sa paglaki nila or sa real-life situations. The fourth one is livelihood and enrichment. No skills. Livelihood and enrichment. So, ito naman ay nagpo-focus sa self-sufficiency ng mga learners, sa independence ng mga learners, and sa personal fulfillment ng mga learners. So are we clear with this class? Are we clear with all of the idea of transition program? I hope that it is, because we will be moving on to our next topic. Okay, so no IMs muna because I'll be saying my piece. To conclude the idea of transition program, it is meant to support, guide, and foster all learners with disabilities para makapag-function sila sa ating society and makapag-cooperate sila to our society. So, those are all important because nag-help siya para ma-develop yung mga abilities and skills ng mga learners with disabilities. There are also transition programs in the Philippines, but I believe na nung una, nag-cater lang siya sa mga adult learners with disabilities or adult people with disabilities. So, hindi pa siya sobrang implemented sa Pilipinas dati. But today, we are slowly progressing for a better program for learners with disabilities, which I'm happy to tell you guys because truly this is an important program for our society. So yeah, let's move on to the Philippine model. Okay, so now we have here the Philippine model of transition program. But before we go over this, let me ask you a question. Is it hard for you to understand? Do you know the meaning and the purpose of this model? Well, fear not because that will be answered because I'm happy to present or to teach you what the purpose and meaning of this model. So, let's begin. The model or the Philippine model of transition program displays the transition program and how it helps support learners with disabilities into becoming independent and skillful individuals after finishing or graduating school. So, ayan, may mga rings tayo dito. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, we will go all of the rings here together. Sa innermost ring, ito ay nagre-represent sa mga learners with disabilities. Here you can see na may blind person here, and here ay may mga physically handicapped people, and here is siguro mga intellectually disabled people. But overall, the innermost ring represents the learners with disabilities. So the second ring here, we have ito yung mga ultimate goal na kailangang ma-achieve ng mga learners with disabilities through transition program. The third ring, we have occupational guidance and preparation, personal and social skills, and daily living skills. Ito yung mga core skills na kailangan nilang ma-achieve or na kailangan nilang ma-develop to becoming independent and skillful individuals. So, again, before we move on to the last ring, again, the innermost ring represents the learners with disabilities. The second ring represents the ultimate goals of learners with disabilities. The third, again, is the core skills of learners with disabilities, or the core skills that learners with disabilities are bound to achieve while in transition program. Okay, so now the final and last ring of this model, community, local businesses, and industries, parents, SPED, and regular teachers. So does this ring a bell to you guys? The outermost ring, or the last ring right here, are the people or the group of people that serves as a support system to learners with disabilities. So, ito yung mga taong nag-empower, nagsusupport, or mga group of people din or mga organizations na nagsusupport sa ating learners with disabilities. Okay, so that concludes the Philippine Model of Transition Program. Do we have any question regarding this? If so, message me because you guys know my contact information already, so I won't have to mention it here. But make sure to contact me if you have questions regarding of all of my topics. But to conclude this, again, it is essential for our education system and our society because it helps produce or transition learners with disabilities into becoming independent and skillful individuals. For our society, para na rin makapag-cooperate sila sa society natin, para kahit meron man silang disability, makakapag-help pa rin sila sa economy ng ating bansa. So, having that said, guys, let us move on to our next topic. Okay, so that actually concludes all of my lessons for today's reporting. But before we end this, I know that there's a lot of information you have to remember. So let me give you an example to better your understanding of transition program. I will be reading it through my phone, okay? So listen carefully. This activity is titled Rugs for Sale Done by Special Children. 12 to 15 years old children with mental retardation of Salahis ng Pag-asa, Barrio Obrero Elementary School are being taught rug making. The skill is being offered by parent volunteers who are tailors. The rugs vary in colors, sizes, and could be used for different purposes. Each child learns how to sew together pieces of cloth and fashion them to different shapes. He or she has a target number of rugs to finish in one day depending on his or her speed. While making the rugs, the children also learn to combine colors to achieve beauty. The tailor shops in the community provide them with the materials while sewing machines are made available by the school. So, dito sa example na to, makikita natin na ginamit nila yung pagiging skillful ng mga bata or dinevelop ng transition program na to yung skill ng mga bata for sewing. And yung sewing na yun, pwede nila magamit para makabenta sila ng mga rugs na essential din para sa real life or sa real world natin. Kasi syempre, kapag nakakabenta ka ng mga rugs or marunong kang mag-craft, mag-sew ng rugs, pwede mo siyang gawing business idea, di ba? So, sobrang gandang opportunity or sobrang gandang program nito para sa mga batang may disabilities. Kasi hindi lang nade-develop yung yung skill nila for sewing. But this also develops their interpersonal skills, which is being able to connect or communicate with other people. So, ayun, sana naintindihan nyo yung example and yung mini-mean ng ating transition program. Again, please remember that transition program is very important for learners with disabilities because it gradually transitions them from being to school to going to the real world or going and participating in our society in real time. So, ayun lang guys. I hope na may natutunan kayo. If not, that's very sad. But if you guys have any questions, make sure to message me privately and I'll be happy to answer your question regarding our topic. And that concludes, that concludes my topic or lesson for today. And I'll be happy to call on Miss Juliana to discuss sustaining programs. Thank you very much.
Good day everyone. My name is Juliana Nicole Diaz and I will be explaining to you the program sustainability. So, program sustainability is the ability to maintain core activities and impact after initial external fundings and by embedding the initiative into community and securing diverse resources. So, to summarize it up, so program sustainability, it is where the program is nakakapagbigay ng serbisyo kahit na without relying to pondo, and yeah, so that is program sustainability. So moving forward, the 4 pillars of sustainability. So the first is the strategic financing, the diversifying income, fees, donors, partnership to avoid relying on a single round. So, strategic financing, this is where meron silang ibang resources, ibang pinagkukunan ng pera para if ever mawala yung isang pinagkukunan ng pondo is tuloy pa rin yung program and may ibang resources na pinagkukunan. So moving forward, the next one is the organizational capacity. So organizational capacity is strengthening leadership, mission clarity, and workforce adaptability. So meaning to say, organizational capacity, this is where they can adjust or if there's some changes and then pagbabago, kaya nilang sumabay and then even if may pondo kasi, if hindi maayos or hindi nakakasabay yung program sa changes, hindi pa rin magpapatuloy yung program. So this is very important. So the third one is the community engagement. So community engagement is building local ownership and stakeholder advocacy. So when we say community engagement, so basically the program should be nakikilahok. Dapat nakikilahok sila sa community so that yung mga kasali sa program na ito is mafe-feel nila like the program is really for them and then the program is really built this program para makatulong and yeah, that is for community engagement. So last but not the least, for the 4 pillars of sustainability, we have the adaptability and evaluation. So using data to prove impact and pivoting based on community needs. So when we say adaptability and evaluation, this is where we can see and we can prove that program is really giving the needs ng mga kasali and they really is epektibo. Yes, the word is epektibo. So here we can see na pag epektibo yung program, pwede siya magtuloy-tuloy and that is very important. And if makikita naman natin na hindi, na walang improvements or walang effect yung program sa mga kasali is hindi na siya para magpatuloy. So the next is the sustainability and cycle. So first, we have the planning. Defining essential must-have program components. This is where they plan the what's important and kung ano yung effective na program para sa mga kasali. Yes, and then the second one is the implementation, executing with efficiency and cost effectiveness. Ito na yung ginagawa na nila yung program and dito na rin natin makikita if effective siya. After planning, the implementation comes. This is where it's executed. So moving forward, the third sustainability cycle is the evaluation. This is measuring results and return on investment, ROI. So, in evaluation, dito natin makikita yung effectiveness ng program and dito na rin natin makikita kung gumana ba talaga siya and nagawa niya yung purpose niya. So, last is the advocacy. This is where building political will by sharing success stories. So, in advocacy, dito na natin i-share sa public, sa communication, and sa government, yung evaluation or yung results na nakuha natin sa implementation na ginawa and na in-execute. So, by sharing it publicly, in our community and our government, once we shared it, if it's successful, and then once we shared it, there's a possibility where we can get help or more resources. And that is all. Thank you very much.
Good day, everyone. I am Manuel Jasmine V. Monson, and I will be discussing the Indigenous Peoples Education Program, or the IPED. So, what do we mean by IPED po ba? So, let us have a very brief background review over this. So, the IPED program of the Department of Education promotes culturally responsive education for IP learners. So, to simplify po, sinasabi lang dito na ang mga discussion is adjusted to fit the learner's culture, traditions, and languages. So, instead of forcing them to follow a standard system, lessons are connected to their way of life when it comes to IPED program. So, for example, instead of using generic examples or yung mga examples na walang specific details, in IPED, teachers may use local practices like farming, fishing, or traditional crafts to explain concepts. So, dahil dito, ang learning is much easier and more meaningful for students. So, now that we have discussed the background, let us now dive into its legal basis. So, we have two main. So, this is the key policies supported by the IPED. DepEd Order 62, Section 2011. Institutionalized IPED. When we say institutionalized IPED, meaning it officially became part of the education system. Includes community consultation. Kapag sinabi naman natin ito, yung mga indigenous leaders and families help shape the program. For example, before implementing lessons, schools may ask elders what topics or values should be included to make learning culturally appropriate. And lastly, aligned with education for all, or EFA. So, sinasabi lang dito na it ensures that all learners have access to education. So, for the second key policy, DepEd Order 32, Section 2015 states that established IPE curriculum framework guides culturally appropriate teaching and learning. So, when we say DepEd 32, Section 2015, it guides teachers in delivering lessons that are respectful and relevant to indigenous learners. So, another example that I can provide is instead of using only textbooks, in DepEd 32, Section 2015, teachers may use oral storytelling or traditional knowledge in their teaching. So, in that way, mas mapopromote ng culture ng isang community, and also mas madaling mako-comprehend ng mga bata na ang mga lessons na itatakal ng mga teachers nila. So now na we are finished with its legal basis, we will now proceed on its objectives and roles, impacts, and conclusion. So let's dive into it. So we're now done discussing the legal basis and definition of IPED, or Indigenous People Education Program. So now we will tackle its objective. So malalaman natin why it really matters in inclusive education. So first, the program promotes respect IP culture and rights. So this simply means that education is not here to replace their identity, but to protect and value it. Their traditions, beliefs, and way of life are seen as strengths, not something to be ashamed of or to be changed. So that's what it is. Yung first objective natin is all about respect IP culture and rights. From the word itself, you can see it naman here. So the second one is contextualized learning. So what do we mean by contextualized learning? So sinasabi lang dito na instead of using examples that feel foreign or distant, in IPED, here, our lessons are connected to real-life experiences of indigenous learners. Again, kapag sinabi natin indigenous learners, ito yung mga learners natin na nakatira sa remote area or sa mga community na mahirap mapuntahan. Mga example natin dito is farming, fishing, or community traditions can be used to explain science or social concepts for them. So, using this, we will make learning for them more relatable and easier to understand. So, sinasabi lang dito contextualized learning, inaayon natin yung context ng mga topic natin based sa community nila. So, the third program is better access in remote areas. So, since marami sa mga indigenous communities natin ay malayo sa mga cities, so malalayo yung mga location nila like that. In objective natin for the third bullet is to brought closer education to them through mobile teachers, community schools, or flexible learning systems. So, better access in remote areas simply says na provide them the appropriate education for them. So, for our four objectives, which is inclusion and equality. So, alam naman natin na inclusion is important for us. So, basically, sinasabi lang nito, this ensures that indigenous learners are not treated as different in a negative way. So, sinasabi lang dito na they should be given equal opportunities to learn, grow, and succeed. Hindi sila dapat treat natin as outcasts. Ganon. So, for the fifth objectives of IPED is preserve IKSPS. When we say IKSPS, it is the Indigenous Knowledge Systems and Practices. So, basically, ang sinasabi lang dito is, these are the living traditions. It can be stories, skills, beliefs, and practices passed down through generations. So, it says here, preserve. So, kapag preserve natin yung mga traditions nila, education becomes a way to keep them alive and not erase them. So, we are now done with the objectives. Then, let us now proceed with the curriculum focus of IPED. So, for our first curriculum focus, we have here in the first bullet, the indigenous languages / materials. So, what do we mean by that? Basically, sinasabi lang natin dito na learning becomes more powerful when students are taught in the language they grew up speaking. Nakaka-help to para ma-build yung confidence nila and ma-deepen yung understanding nila regarding certain concepts. So, indigenous languages and materials, i-integrate natin yung mga languages ng mga bata sa mga lesson na ating itatackle. So, for the second one is indigenous knowledge integration. So, from the word itself, integration, here, lessons don't only come from textbooks. Hindi lang dapat sa mga textbooks para makarelate yung mga IP learners natin. They also include local wisdom like traditional healing, farming methods, or community values. So, here, pwede rin natin ma-preserve yung mga cultures and tradition ng mga tao sa remote area. So, for our third curriculum focus is community involvement. Mahalaga ang community involvement. Alam naman natin lahat yan. So here, community members are not just observers. They actively participate or help in teaching, sharing knowledge, and guiding what learners should study. So, nakafocus talaga siya sa unity, kumbaga, yung curriculum na to. And finally, for our last focus on regarding curriculum is localized K-12 curriculum. So, sinasabi lang dito na ang education is flexible. So, maaari itong maka-adapt sa mga culture and environment and needs of indigenous community. So, dapat i-localize natin yung K-12 curriculum kasi makakatulong to sa lahat. So, instead of using one-size-fits-all approach, maaari natin i-implement yung K-12 curriculum but approach na ma-appropriate sa culture nila para hindi rin natin sila ma-disrespect. So, now let's talk about the roles of IPED on our IP learners. So, in IPED, teachers here play a very important role. They're expected to adapt to indigenous culture and not ignore it. So, sobrang bigat ng mga roles ng teacher because they must understand the learner's traditions, language, and values to make learning more effective and respectful. Kasi nga, again, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito is ang mga IP learners natin or mga indigenous learner natin. So, ang isang community, meron silang mga key partner. They are not just supporting education, they are part of it. So, basically, ang community, nagpo-function sila as a whole. Katulad nga nito, ang mga roles na nakikita natin dito. So, they are part of it by sharing their knowledge and guiding and learning process. And because of this, there is a strong school community relationship or partnership na nagme-make sure na merong appropriate education na makukuha ang mga IP learners natin, stay relevant sila, as well as respectful and culturally grounded, meaning mape-preserve natin yung culture nila. So, after that explanation, let's finally look at the impact of the wide access nationwide. Impact of IPED. So, first is wide access nationwide. So, basically, it means that it expands access to education nationwide, especially for indigenous learners who were previously left out. No? So, for the second impact of IPED on IP learners is better learning via mother tongue. Minimin lang sa second impact natin is it improves learning outcomes through mother tongue education. Since ang mga estudyante, they understand lessons more naturally kapag ang ginagamit natin is their own language. So, better learning via mother tongue. So, pinopromote dito yung learning through mother tongue ng mga indigenous community. So, for the third is promotes inclusion. So, it strengthens inclusion, helping learners feel seen, respected, and valued in school, especially sa mga IP learners nga natin. So, and lastly is preserves culture. So, it plays a huge role in cultural preservation, itang IPED. So, nagagawa nito is ini-ensure nito na mga indigenous traditions and knowledge are not lost but continue through education. So, sinasabi dito na through education, na pe-preserve natin at mas nag-grow yung mga culture. So, babalikan natin itong mga roles dahil hindi natin siya masyado na-explain ng masyado. Teachers adapt to IP culture. Ang role ng mga teacher is to adapt sa mga culture ng mga IP learners natin for us to be able to give them the knowledge they deserve. So, community involved, ang katulad nga na sinasabi natin kanina, hindi lang teachers ang nag-work dito. Kasama dito ang mga indigenous leaders, families, government, and teachers. So, this will allow us to give the informations that indigenous learners needed and deserve. School community partnership. So, in the last role, which is the school community partnership, masasabi dito na ang school and community ay they hold a very important role. Because without them, we won't be able to execute this program, which is the IPED program. So now, without further ado, let's look at our chart here and try to understand it clearly. Then, yes. So we will wrap everything up. So to conclude the discussion regarding the IPED or Indigenous People Education Program, nakafocus lang to sa pagbibigay ng mga appropriate learning while also preserving culture, tradition, and way of life ng ating mga indigenous learner. Yun lamang po. Thank you so much for listening.
So for our conclusion, inclusive education in the Philippines is guided by the principles, policies, and dimensions that aim to provide equal and meaningful learning opportunities for all learners. It serves a challenge for the education system to ensure that teachers, students, and other stakeholders work together in promoting an accessible and responsive learning environment. Through key components such as early intervention and the Philippine Model of Inclusion Transitions Program, Sustaining Program, and the National IP Education Policy. Inclusive education is strengthened and made more responsive to the diverse needs of learners. And lastly, as a future educators, this concept are essential in preparing us to fulfill our roles with dedication, patience, and responsibility in promoting inclusive education. They remind us that inclusive education is not only about access but also about creating a supportive environment where every learner is given the opportunity to succeed.